We'll call our meeting to order and welcome everyone out to the Riverdale City Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, January 28th. All of the commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Herman, who is excused. We welcome the public present with us and now have an opportunity to hear from them, from if there are any public comments regarding issues that would like to be addressed or brought to our attention that are not particular to the agenda tonight. So we'll open that up, but it doesn't appear that we have anyone who is here to participate for that. So we'll move on to our next item C, presentation and reports. Mr. Cooper, please.
Just a few updates that I think are important. We did get a revised date from the contractor for America First Credit Union on the hillside. As you know, they're starting to do some of the pilings that are associated with the hillside stabilization and also the parking structure. That was supposed to start on the 23rd. It's delayed until February 10th. That's the newest date that we received. That will be significantly loud when they start that.
I had some questions regarding that because as you drive up Riverdale Road, it was so cold, we didn't have any snow, but you could see ice coming out from different pockets, and you could see that it was all wet through there. So have they found issues that they're having problems with water table, or was that known and they were...
It was mostly known. They're still trying to manage the water and the flow out of the hillside, but it was mostly known. The wetness is what delayed them, so they actually reconfigured how they're going to access that hillside. So it's now on the top coming down instead of having to cut access roads to work from the bottom up. So different means and method that allowed them to deal with any moisture that's in the hill.
Okay.
Additionally, with the America First, we received information about the roundabout and the connection to Old Coziedale and the 1500 New Road. We anticipated and hoped that they would have that work done in such a way that they could finish paving that road by April of this year. Unfortunately, due to the 30-inch Weber Basin water line that's crossing that road alignment, those parts are difficult to get. It's a difficult tie-in that they're making, Weber Basin. And so what it looks like is they're changing their pavement from asphalt to concrete on the roundabout. That will allow them to pave now instead of waiting. And then it looks like the rest of the road all the way up to 4400 won't be completed until this time next year. So we'll have a portion of that 1500 new road alignment done, around springtime, but the rest of it will have to wait. And then just general updates. You've seen progress at Ken Garf. You've seen progress at Panera, Coleman View. They're framing those homes. That looks amazing. So just general progress. There are a couple of things. Mission Barbecue will start soon. And we have received some application interest for the Speedway that has closed down. So that'll be coming to you fairly shortly.
Nice.
And Trader Joe's should be getting their building permit here in the next week or so, we hope.
Hey, Brandon, can I ask with regards to that 4400 movement that's going on, you're talking down by Coziedale, what's going to happen going west? Is it all going to be shut down when the I-84 overpass starts?
On 44?
On 44, and all of that right there, is that going to be totally shut off from Roy coming into the city, or what are they going to do for the I-84 and the roundabout at the same time?
We have asked them to ensure that they maintain access through that area. I know that one of the bridges will be built adjacent to the site and then moved over. I think the other one has to be built in place. But we've asked them and demanded that they maintain east-west access there.
Thank you.
But it will be likely down to one lane and heavily trafficked.
Oh, the joys of all the road construction that we're having to contend with.
I didn't even mention the Ritter Roundabout, which will hopefully be bid and awarded in before the end of spring, so that we can get under construction on that as well.
Yeah, there was some questions that were raised that on the Facebook page, the citizens' Facebook page, as to what was happening.
It's
there,
It's working itself out. So basically, don't drive this summer, and you'll be okay.
Just walk.
Right? Get an e-bike.
Well, the governor's forming an alliance with, or interests with, vertical taxis now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what we need to get, is some some kind of vertical taxi to get around anymore. All right. Moving on, we next have our consent items. Consideration of meeting minutes from January 14th, 2025 for the work session and the regular meeting. Any changes or corrections that we need to be aware of or to request? Okay,
I think everything looks good, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the January 14th, 2025 work session and regular meeting.
okay, we have a motion to approve
I second.
and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, we move on to our action items for this evening. Consideration to grant an additional 6-month extension to August 1st, 2025 for subdivision plat approval for the Riverside Flat Apartments located at approximately 667 West, 4400 South, as requested by Forza Development. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. We have a couple of presentations here. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind getting that up, please. And we also have Mr. Matt Steiner here on behalf of Forza that could answer any questions that you might have that I'm not able to answer. As I mentioned in the work session, this is a reapproval of a previous approval of an extension. You all, as a commission, have the ability to grant 6-month extensions when the request is made prior to the expiration date. So for your reference, this is the location of the plat that's in consideration. That is the approved plat. It has the 2 parcels. If you recall, there was a site plan approval for lot number 2 with the Ken Garf group to do an overflow parking. And then, as we discussed, there is a site plan that has been approved and then expired and then reapproved by the Planning Commission for lot number 1 for the apartment development. As you recall, the original plat extension was requested and given on August 13th, and that was good until February 1st, with the anticipation that the developer was not able to move the project far along to make that plat recordation. They've requested a second extension. In addition to that, and this is where Mr. Steiner would likely add some light, there has been some change in the development group. The Forza group, which I understand represents some of the landowners, is now taking the head role, wherein last time you heard about this project, it was from Right Development. So they're no longer part of this project, and Forza is taking over. They've been in the background, as I understand, the whole time, but Right Development had the requirement of moving the project along, and there are significant challenges with it, as we've discussed. As I've talked to Chris Hatch and others, the financing environment now versus when this was originally conceived and approved has changed dramatically in terms of lender financing, loan to cost, equity, and those kind of things. Construction costs have risen and lowered and then stabilized, but still at a higher level than what was originally anticipated. So it's been a hard project to finance. There's also the issue with the Garf property. If you recall, there was some requirement in order for that land to switch hands, that they're required to actually build out that site plan that was approved for the overflow parking. So a lot of kind of balls in the air. So tonight, based on this information and anything you'd like to ask Mr. Steiner, you have the option of making a motion to grant the extension for another 6 months to August 1st, denying it, and that would essentially require the current entitlements would expire on February 1st, and if they indeed did not get it recorded by then they would have to resubmit a whole new plat application and go through that process. Or if there's anything that you feel like you haven't heard tonight, you may make a motion to table. So with that, Chair, I'll turn it back to you and invite Mr. Steiner up to the microphone.
Welcome, Mr. Steiner. Would you please list or give us your residence, the city that you're residing in?
I live in Holiday, Utah.
Okay, thank you.
I was here before when we were rezoning the project as part of Forza, and then we, like you said, we partnered with Wrights for a few years and to get it this far, and it kind of stalled out for all those reasons last year, partway through the year, and we never got the land swap done and the parking lot built. So anyway, now we're back in motion without Rights and as Forza. This meeting was much more popular when I was here when we were rezoning. I guess unpopular.
Depends on.
We had a lot of public then.
Better attended, I'm sure.
Yeah, better attended. That's the right way to put it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Steiner?
I do have one that's, I look, and don't take this personal, but it's something that concerns me.
Yeah.
I see a lot of development going on in the city, and I see a lot of different groups from the south end to the north end
Right.
that is having the same financial concerns, builders, the costs, the interest, the labor, the whatever, just keeps going up. But they're now kicked the can down to their 6 months extensions, and they're moving fairly well.
Yeah.
Fonza Group, now correct me if I'm wrong, started this in like 2022, and we still haven't broke ground. I'm concerned about what's causing the major delays when other people has found means to move forward.
Yeah. Well, as landowners, we're concerned also, and so that's why we came back in over the past few months to take over and get this back in line, because we saw this deadline coming up and the parking lot had not been done. We thought it would be done last fall. And so we withdrew our land. I say we, there's a group of 5 different landowners that own these 3 parcels, and came back in and took over to start working on it. So, yeah, we were concerned too that it hadn't moved forward.
Where's your currently issues with your financial stability to go forward, or there's no concern there, or what's your hurdle currently?
Currently, that's not a problem because we have a different equity partner in this now. Rights were in charge of that, and it never happened. And so we came back in and we went and got a different group.
So what do you plan in the 6 months going forward?
We plan to have within about, probably it'll be 60 days, not 30 days, to have the parking lot under construction and to be doing the construction on the apartments by the end of the summer. Be starting it by the end of the summer.
So there's no major hurdles at this point that's holding you back?
No.
All the red lights and the stops is now behind you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just a reminder, Commissioner, that prior to construction, they will have had to record this plat. And so if they're anticipating starting in that time frame, then they'll meet the plat recordation timeline well ahead of the August 1st
And
time
they'll
frame.
have that recorded with Weber County.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're in the process. We've kicked off a reappraisal of all the land that's involved so that our bank that's doing it can justify everything. Our new equity partner is also one of the bidders for the construction. And they're one of 4 people bidding on the parking lot currently. So they think they can, they want to do both the construction of the parking lot and the vertical apartments. That's the business they're in.
Brandon, the city has no concerns at this point with where they're at currently to proceed?
As I mentioned, I understand the nature of swapping out partners. That is unfortunate, but sometimes common. I understand the nature of what he's mentioning in terms of a new partner that's coming along. So, as I mentioned in the work session, there's not really any downside given the position that they're in today with all of the work that they've been doing to try to get to right this ship. I don't see much downside for another 6 months. If we come to August and none of what we're talking about today has come to fruition, then I think we'll have a much different decision to make.
Yeah. I think the alternative, what's going to happen is, because we've talked about this, is just splitting up and not doing it as one whole project again. So I don't know, plat's not up there, but the Carey's piece, everyone's probably familiar with it, is one piece, separate parcel. And then where the mobile home park was is a separate parcel. And they're flipping land with the Garfs on the corner to make it a more unified parcel. And then there's a piece across, is it 4,400? Yeah. That's that north parcel. That was when we brought that to the project, it was already entitled and ready for building permit. And so then that changed because we decided to include this all and have the amenities for both sides be all within the same project, to have a pool and all that kind of stuff. And so we decided it's better off joining the three parcels. The alternative probably, if it doesn't come together and happen like this is currently planned, will be that those three parcels all go back to doing their own thing.
Do you anticipate that's going to happen in the next 6 months?
No, that would be if we aren't approved here, our plan would be to resubmit the plat, but it's not. I mean, as landowners, everyone will have to reconsider what they do if the plat's not extended, is all I'm saying. The Careys, for example, could go back and be something, I don't know exactly, I can't recall how it's zoned right now, but it would go back and potentially be something different and come to you for some other use as retail again. Right there on that frontage versus be part of this. The north piece, I guess, would come back as a separate project to be apartments alone like it was originally approved. So those are the alternatives. I don't think the big piece is going back to a mobile home park. I know that. It's not going to happen. I don't think the city wants that. So it's better off as an overall project altogether, the way we've pulled it together. But there are three different landowners involved.
Are they all on the same page?
Right now, yes. It was over the past couple months, it's been not always on the same page as we've figured out how to go forward, but everyone is right now. So I think we have all the problems solved if we can get this reapproved and extended. And we've moved forward as if that by getting bids and appraisals and all that stuff. So we've been spending money the last month or two to get that stuff moving.
So you fully.
And we kind of scrambled with Brandon to get this in front of you now so we could get the extension. When we kind of got back into it, we just were foreseeing moving ahead, not initially as landowners, we were not aware how close we were to the expiration when we first started getting back into this, probably end of October, and pulling this project back to ourselves. And so maybe it was beginning of October. And so it became kind of a scramble as we got closer and closer and realizing we weren't going to be able to do the parking lot before the expiration, before everything got cold for the winter, because we had anticipated that was going to be done last fall, towards the end of summer, early fall, but it never happened. And so that kind of prompted us all getting back involved and say, what's going on? So it's been, 2 or 3 months of scrambling internally as property owners anyway.
What would you say is your level of confidence if this was to be renewed today to be able to complete the project as you've planned?
As of this afternoon, I feel 90% confident based on the meetings we've had this week. I mean, I guess nothing is ever 100%, but everything has lined up nicely for it to happen.
Okay.
Mr. Center, what is do you have it in writing, basically, where all your investors and partners, it's not verbals, it's in writing that they're with you and ready to roll?
Yeah, so we have an operating agreement. We're working on a development agreement with the new equity partner. We have, what would you call it, LOIs with them. We're moving forward. Like I said, they're bidding the parking lot part because that's the first construction we'll be doing. That's the thing that we're rapidly moving towards, needing to get done. So
But it is in writing that there's,
Yeah.
it's,
there's not a final development agreement between all of us. The current landowners have an operating agreement that they're working under, that we've been working under the whole time, and we modified that so that we could move forward with new equity partners. So,
just so you're not having people pull out at different
yeah.
points of your build.
Yeah.
There's nothing legal that says
I
you
mean,
can't.
the
pull
reason
out.
that's not finalized, frankly, is because if this isn't approved, we have to reevaluate the whole thing because we have to resubmit a plat. And so we were moving towards that to have a complete new agreement with new equity partners and our bank. But everything kind of stopped in limbo a little bit to see if we got approved on this when we realized we were close to expiration. Brandon was on the email chain when we, I'm trying to remember what dates it was. Just a couple weeks ago when we realized we had to get this stuff to you in a certain format so that you could get it noticed for this meeting. So anyway, it all kind of, realizing we had to do this actually was probably less than 2 weeks ago. I guess. When did we have to get it to you? It was about 10 days ago or something, right?
Yeah, so Chris Hatch, part of the ownership
Right.
group and the development group, came in and explained to me the change between Wright Development and them and why Wright was no longer representing the project. And in that process of dialogue, he discovered that there
Right.
were some deadlines that were coming up. So it was news to Chris, which is
Right.
with Mike.
That's when he sent me an email or a text that day. I remember the day because he drove up here.
Yeah,
After talking to you on the phone, it seems like he came in here and talked to you and
and the mayor.
the mayor, yeah. Kind of in a scramble. And that was probably 2 weeks ago, I think. So
I just have one
it's
question.
not fun.
Okay, where the traders were, there's a lot of underground wires and sewer lines. Has all that been taken care of so you're not going to be surprised when you get in there and start doing the paving? That's all, the ground is ready then.
Yeah, that's gone. Now, I guess you could dig somewhere and find something, but through the demolition, they took all that away.
Okay? 'Cause I didn't want you to get in there halfway and think, oh, we got to stop.
So the Carries had the same thing because they did demo there. Maybe they did at the same time. I'm trying to remember when they did it all. But anyway, when they did all that, they took all that infrastructure out so it's ready to work. But I guess someplace there could be something hidden that they run into when they start, excavating and doing the new infrastructure.
Brandon,
that's
has
not
that ground
expected.
been remediated? Is there any hazardous materials from that ground at all that's been
Not that
found
I know
from
of.
carries, dumping oil or whatever possibly could be contamination?
Not that I know of.
That's all been addressed and taken
Mm-hmm.
care of. That's a big issue, that hazardous material.
That was a
Yeah.
big mess. That whole part.
Yeah, we have to have the environmental reports and everything submitted with the banks, and that is behind us. The mobile home piece has a loan with, has a current loan on it with First Community Bank. I think the other two pieces have no debt on them. So anyway, when that was all happened, the environmental reports were done because of course they require all that.
Okay.
So.
I just, trying to find the right words to, I don't feel the confidence there. For lack of better words, I don't feel the confidence there that this is gonna be executed.
Like I said, we feel very confident right now. It's been frustrating. Maybe you sense some of my frustration in my voice, and some of that is coming through because it has been a frustrating process the last couple months of pushing towards getting it done and then realizing that we had a couple hurdles to do. And in fact, like as landowners, we had never seen the actual architectural plans until 2 weeks ago that had been submitted and brought to the city. We finally got access to that to see that they actually were there. I mean, I guess we knew they were there because the approvals had happened. But, I mean, we had seen what the project was going to look like because we approved all that. But the actual hardcore building drawings, we had never had the access to the computerized drawings. So all of that's come about, and we've got re-involved. I mean, we do this stuff for a living in other places and other projects. This is not our first project, but this one we were passive investors in and just contributed our land, and we're not planning to be the developers. So Chris and I came through and rezoned the mobile home park, and then we got under contract, he and I, and we have 2 other people on it, on the north piece, and bought that through a 1031, selling another property. And then Steve Diamond, who was he used to work for our bank, and he does projects like this also. He's a developer, and he was formerly a banker. He bought Carey's because everyone saw this was a great project. It's going to move forward because we had got the mobile home park rezoned when we came before you, 2 years ago. So anyway, everyone was excited about it. Everyone just came in. Passive investors contribute our land to a development agreement, and then it didn't all come about the way it was supposed to. So, like I said, Steve's a developer. Chris and I are developers. Chris and his father-in-law own the big piece. Chris and me and 2 other people own the north piece, and Steve owns the Carries. So everyone involved as landowners does this in other places. So we know what we're doing. It was just a scramble to get together and realize we had to do it.
So Carries don't have an interest in this any longer. That's been sold off because you kind of alluded to that if the project didn't complete, that there could be something else that the Carries piece might go into.
I just refer to it as Carries because that's how everyone knows the parcel, but it's owned by 5D Development, Steve Diamond.
Okay.
And like I said, he does townhome projects and care center projects on his own. And he just saw that as an opportunity when he knew we were going to build apartments there. So he bought that piece from Carey's on a 1031 that he had.
Because it sounded like, and
I think the reason I said that, I think one of his options, because of where it sits, that if the apartments don't happen, if it doesn't roll forward, one of his opportunities would be to go back and look at how he could use that in a commercial way versus apartments because of where it sits with frontage.
Because I think that's might be what Commissioner Spires was talking about, because it sounded like you had different
Right.
parties with not aligned interests.
Right.
Exactly.
I probably explained that wrong. I'm just saying if it doesn't happen and we can't move forward with the plat the way it is, and we got to go through this whole process of resubmittal, which isn't that daunting. I mean, we already have all the stuff to come back before you and resubmit again. It's just going through the timeline of the meetings and stuff and see if we can get you all to approve it again.
But that's your plan B,
That's our plan B.
is what you're saying.
Yes.
If
And this
doesn't happen.
deadline of February 1st, like I said 2 weeks ago, we didn't realize that existed. So we had come back in. We were getting bids for the parking lot moving forward. Everyone's there. So frankly, there's been talk of what happens if we don't get it. What does everyone do with their land? That's why I brought that up.
Okay.
When you start talking about confidence, it's not that we don't all want to move forward. Everyone that came to this believes this is a great location. We want to own it forever. That was one of the differences we had as ownership. Maybe I'm sharing too much, but that was one of the differences, is the motivation of the Wright Group was not aligned with long-term ownership of the landowners. Landowners want to hold this forever because they believe in the location. That's why we all bought the land in the first place, because we think it's a great location. That's why we went through the process of tearing down the mobile home park and rezoning. So we think for apartments, it's a great location for the long term.
Okay. I think we can all empathize
Yeah.
with the struggles that you've gone through this whole process. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm guessing that a lot of our concern as commissioners is that we know that the residents have been concerned that this land hasn't been developed.
Right.
As you stated, there are a lot of people who are unhappy about the rezoning to begin with, and there's a lot of citizens who are wondering, why did we kick people out of their homes? Why did we rezone?
Right.
And nothing is happening with the land. And so I think what we're facing is, we think this is a beautiful development. We've passed it through before. We believe that it would be a good addition to the city. And also, we have concerns that if we give another extension and it doesn't go through, then where are we at? And this is taking more and more time, and the citizens don't support that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of balance here where we can see the struggles that you have faced as landowners, and we appreciate you sharing that. And we also do believe in this project and want it to work. And also, we have to weigh the interests of the citizens with that.
Right.
We also set a precedence going forward for the city. You know, if we keep kicking the can down the road,
Right.
and everybody that wants to come into the city, well, you let these people do it, and you let this people, why not us? And everybody has their reasons, and they be valid, you know. That's a big concern,
Yeah.
you know, is you set a precedence by whatever we approve.
Right.
And that was, the kicking those people out of their homes was a very, very, very hard thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was hard, and it was not good.
To have, to be in this spot now is not favorable.
Yeah. Well, I think it will be good for the city to extend it, and we'll get moving on it. Because we agree, we don't like it sitting there as raw land either. You know, very unproductive financially to have it sitting there, you know, millions of dollars sitting in land with nothing to do, because we have lots of other places we could put it. So we want it to be done. We want it to be cash flowing as a project. Now, some upsides is with the delays. Part of the delays were different things financially, just with macroeconomics. That's changed a little bit. That's why you see some projects going now that had been sitting and extended. I mean, equity conditions have changed, banking conditions have changed. Not dramatically. And construction costs have not changed dramatically either, but they have leveled. So that helps make projects seem more viable to banks and to equity partners. So that's why, like you said, you see projects going now. That is happening places, things that sat for a year or so.
And they're still moving, you know, and that's what I was concerned about, is you drive by there and there's still nothing there. Now they
Yeah.
want a 6 months. I seen a 6 months extension. I says,
Yeah.
there's got to be a root issue here that's needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
And maybe I'm wrong, but that was what jumped out at me.
right.
You know, I said, what's causing this? You know, the Coleman group down there, they had issues. They seemed like they resolved it, and they're rolling along right now.
Yeah.
And other ones out in Pacific, same issues, and they're rolling along. But this one here come out as a little red flag of,
I think if we would have got back involved earlier, it would have moved along by now. So,
so you feel fairly comfortable that where you're at now, it'll move without any slowdowns and stops and
Yep.
issues.
yeah. Yep.
What do you feel the biggest headwind is right now for you?
Getting it approved here in the city so we can sign our final documents and move ahead to everyone. You know, I mean, just watching what we've done in the last 2 weeks of getting back in control and establishing the dialogue with the Garfs that Chris and I originally started to do the land swap, and then we handed it over. They're just waiting. They're just waiting for it to be done. And so we took over the bidding process for the parking lot. And anyway, we're moving ahead. A lot has happened in 2 weeks. But, I mean, it's a whole, you know, if we don't extend it and we come in, then we're starting over with the plat resubmittal. And until we have that stuff approved, we can't finalize our partners and move ahead. I guess we could move ahead if we got to have the plat so that we can do the Garf land change, because we can't do that without it. But as soon as we have that, I mean, we're close to being ready to go with that.
How about the parking, Brandon? Any concerns there?
That's a separate issue.
Okay, just
But
don't-
yeah, I haven't had a chance to explain that to the team.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'll have to do that soon after this meeting. But it is a consideration in terms of what we're discussing. I don't think it has any bearing on the plat itself in terms of what's before you tonight.
Okay.
One question that I have, you mentioned that, well, how long will it take you to establish an operating agreement? I mean, a development agreement then, because you said that that was one piece that was still outstanding.
Well, that's ready to be finalized once we know we're moving ahead here.
Okay.
So, I don't know, a week or two.
All right.
I guess I'm with Commissioner Polton that we kick this down the road again, and I know your feet have been to the fire the last 2 weeks because you've seen it, a deadline coming up, and as business owners, that's just part of what you do, and
Yeah.
deadlines have to be met, and so
And like I said, we as a group of landowners, every one of us on our own projects do this all the time, and we're always scrambling and doing projects and putting all these pieces together. We just weren't responsible for this one until a few weeks ago. So so that's why it's become all of a sudden, and I mean, we know what has to be done. We know how to do it. And that's where we had started with this project. And anyway, it got stalled out.
I think maybe one of my other questions is, you said you were expecting the parking to be done in the fall, and then it wasn't done, and it seems like some time has lapsed since then. So why the delay in taking action between what you expected to be done and when you're coming here?
I would say that was mostly related to the figuring out that as landowners, we had to come back in and do the project. So there'd been several meetings last fall, like between landowners and the development partner, to push that forward, and it just never happened. So, but still, until 2 weeks ago, we were not fully back in charge of the project.
Okay.
I mean, there's lots of emails going back and forth of when it was going to start, what are we doing with the parking lot, that kind of stuff, because, Garfs are anxious to have it done too, and be done with the pending just sitting there so they can decide what they're doing with their land also.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Steiner?
We really want it developed. Don't get us wrong.
Right.
We're tired of
We did too.
seeing the mess that was there.
Yeah.
And now we're tired of just seeing empty land that had been promised. And I guess we're concerned that how much longer are we going to sit on this and do nothing?
Yeah.
And I think that's all of our concerns is, are we going to sit for another 6 months and you're going to be back here again in 6
Right.
months? Because if that happens, I think you'll get a negative, definitely. But we want this to go forward. We would like to see a nice project here.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way for it to happen. We all believe that. All the landowners believe that. If for any reason it can't go forward like that, everyone will be frustrated and say, what's my alternative? But, and you end up with 3 different pieces of land instead of, one big project. And so I still think it would be advantageous to the city to have it be one project. I think it's going to be really nice when it's done, and it will work well together. You have to have kind of, as we've explained when we first came, you have to have kind of a mass of apartments, a certain level to justify the amenities and that kind of stuff that are built into this project. If you don't have that many units, you can't justify the cost of the amenities, so it makes more sense for it to be bigger, and that's why we brought in the other pieces of land instead of just the mobile home park. So I mean, we all know that, because we're in this business, and that's why we proposed it this way, and we think it will be a great project. So believe me, we really want to see it happen. We really want it to be built and out of the ground. So
Thank you.
I think Brandon's probably been more witness to that the last couple of weeks with us, of our anxiousness to make sure that it happened, because we're anxious to move ahead with it versus have it fall apart or not move forward as one big project. I think my partner Chris has been bugging Brandon probably more than Brandon needed to get details every few days. Make him work. Well, you guys have a lot going on. Every time I come here and hear all the updates of things going, or you drive up here, there's so many things going up here. So many projects in Riverdale. Now nothing else could go wrong because you're getting Trader Joe's.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, that is true.
That is the
There's
one
a lot
thing
of people
everyone
around me
agrees
that
on.
feel that way.
Commissioners, do we have a motion to put forward?
Well, this is a tough one, as I said, because we're balancing here and trying to figure out what is the best way for this to move forward. And I have gone back and forth, but considering the circumstances, I think that it would be in the best interest of the city, the citizens who live here, and the land developers if we could give one more shot with a 6-month extension. As everyone has stated, if not much happens in that 6 months, I think you will have a hard time extending any more, just because of how long this land has been sitting there. We need it to be developed. We need it to be beneficial for the city and for our residents here. But I personally believe that it is worth one last-ditch effort because of all the things that we've discussed tonight. So I would like to make a motion to grant an additional 6-month extension to August 1st, 2025 for subdivision plat approval for Riverside Flat Apartments located at approximately 667 West, 4400 South as requested by the Forza Development.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been presented. Do we have any discussion on the motion first?
I would like to second that with I feel like they have been trying to move forward on this process, and they're just waiting for our approval. I think they have a best interest in us. I'd like to second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
I just have some. Well,
Go ahead.
it's okay. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Speak up, Amy.
I will. Go ahead. No, I'm good.
All right, good. Okay. Michelle, would you poll the commissioners, please?
Commissioner Spires,
No.
Commissioner Nye,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Polson,
No.
Commissioner Noland,
Yes.
Commissioner Henstra.
Okay, so we have
4-2.
4 approvals, 2 nays, noes. So the motion does pass, that we will grant that extension for the 6 months with the expectation that it will be finalized and this won't be revisited. So,
Great. Okay. Thank you.
And as someone who sat with those residents personally through COVID and when all this was going down, please don't take this extension lightly.
Yeah.
Our residents, our citizens and residents love our city,
Yeah.
and they want to see this done. They are frustrated beyond belief. I know you're frustrated as a
Yeah.
business owner. I get it. I truly, truly get it. But this is very, very frustrating on a residential level.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your time.
For your time.
all right. Next on our agenda, consideration to grant an additional 6-month extension to August 15th, 2025 for subdivision plat approval for Coleman View Estates, located at approximately 5368 South, 1050 West, as requested by Goldcrest Homes. Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We also have Mr. Thaddeum Falls with us, so he'll be able to answer your questions as well. For reference, you know the site well, but on the map there is the location of the development, the old Motor View Inn. This is the original plat that was approved on August 15, 2023 by the City Council. This has also been extended one time prior, but because the plat was approved as a single plat, but the development is occurring in individual phases, as you see here on this map. The original request extended the entire plat for 6 months, with the understanding that they weren't going to get to phase 3 within that 6 months, and so we anticipated that with the original extension that you all granted, that there would be a subsequent extension to allow for the phase 3 work to get done. And so that's what is happening tonight. That is the request before you tonight, is to grant an additional 6 months. It's not an individual phased plat extension. It's a single plat extension of the whole plat, but it is to allow for the phase 3 work to start and give them the time to record that prior to that happening. The deadline from the previous extension was February 15th, and again, that's coming up, and there's no anticipation that that plat will get recorded for the 3rd phase prior to that time. And so this extension would be to August 15th, 2025, if so granted. So with that, Chair, I'll invite Mr. Thaddeum to come up, and while he's coming up and preparing to answer your questions, I will just remind you that the original request back in August to February 15th was tabled originally due to the fact that there were certain bonding requirements that hadn't been met, and there were certain things that we were still working through at that time. As of today, tonight's request, all of the bonding is in place for everything that the city's required. Most of the improvements for phase 1 and phase 2 are in. Those plats have been recorded. I didn't mention that in the work session. So even though there's 3 plats, there was only 1 plat approval, but the other 2 phases have been recorded. And so we're in good shape there. The work is almost complete on those 2 phases, and the houses are going up. So from our perspective, Goldcrest Homes has met all of our requirements and obligations that they've committed to. And this plat extension just gets them to the next phase of work, which is a good thing.
Okay. Mr. Thaddeum, would you please give us your city of residence, please?
Yeah, Thaddeum Falls. I reside in Orem, Utah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions?
Must say, it's come a long way since you started.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. it still feels like just yesterday I was actually looking at some pictures that we took on the site, just being able to live that. And I still wear a Coleman Motor View drive-in hat around everywhere I go. It was a tough decision for the Colemans, obviously, to let go of the drive-in, but as you guys have seen, a lot has gone into that, and I think we're creating a beautiful subdivision for the city to stand by proudly. So, as Brandon mentioned, the first two phases, phase 1 and 2, are majority complete. The only items that are outstanding there are sidewalk items. Just because of weather temperatures, we weren't able to hit those deadlines, but as soon as the weather warms up, we'll be installing those sidewalk sections, completing those improvements, and we plan, hopefully you guys are able to grant us this extension, and then we'll swiftly move through phase 3 improvements starting probably within the next month.
How many homes are in phase 1?
11.
11 homes. And how many you got finished so far?
None so far. The model home is just about through framing. I think they're putting trusses on or just about to. I bet that home will complete probably. This is more of a Fieldstone question, seeing that they're the builder, but I bet those homes are completed within the next 2 to 3 months, I would imagine. They've pulled permits on 3. They've commenced 2, and they might be digging a 3rd foundation as we speak.
It's actually 3 and 4. So they commenced on 3, dug a foundation on 4, and Fieldstone is working through their permitting. Actually, the Alpine is working through their permitting on phase 2.
And that's gonna be the model homes, what they're building now, and then,
The one that's fully framed, it's actually getting its mechanical systems installed, so it's fully framed. That's the Fieldstone model home, and then Alpine will have a separate model home for them.
I just want to make a comment. As a newer commissioner, I've seen all this plan a little bit later on, but having formerly been a teenager attending the Motorview Drive-In in Riverdale, I was really happy to see like the street names. I don't know if that was part of your plan or if that was a city issue, but kind of holding to a little bit of the nostalgia, something that I kind of really like seeing.
No, and we appreciate that. It was a collaboration. Obviously, we wanted to commend the Colemans for all of their efforts, really providing such a staple amenity throughout the city and the Weber County, right? So that was the least we could do, was retain their not only name, but keep the entertainment element there throughout the street names to try and preserve what they had done. So thank you for mentioning that.
Not to put a downer on that, but unfortunately, Fieldstone and Alpine have chosen to rename the subdivision for marketing purposes.
To rename, they're not keeping the street names either?
No, the street names are platted. The subdivision name is platted
What'd they change the subdivision?
to Riverside Estates.
I see that.
But everything from our side, so all of the permits and all of the documentation that we accept and approve, all has to be named the legal name, which is the Coleman View Estates. We don't regulate what they call it in their marketing materials. So the Coleman family was a little bummed about that.
Likewise, our group, and I hope Fieldstone and Alpine, if they do or are listening, they don't oppose me for saying this, but it was a little bit of an uphill battle for them. In our group, we really didn't want to change the name. We were adamant about retaining it, but once ground is sold, they have their rights to do as they please. And being the incorporators of the HOA, that was ultimately their decision. And although tough to see come to fruition, that was their decision.
Riverside what? Estate.
Riverside Estates. But again,
Technically, it's not Riverside.
right, there's a
We know.
there's a
That might
ditch
be
back there.
disappointing for people.
Yeah, and that ditch is actually being piped
Right.
this spring, so
But
it's
again,
already half piped.
Just to reiterate, no changes to what you see on the plat.
I know there are a lot of variables going into this, but full build out, how long do you guesstimate? And I know it's a guesstimate.
Yeah. Again, that one would fall morely in the Fieldstone and Alpine Homes realms, but from a Goldcrest perspective, I believe that we envision seeing a full build out within 2.5 to 3 years. Seeing that they've already commenced, that'll probably be well within that time frame. But that's more on their end than mine to answer. Improvements wise, which is obviously infrastructure, right of way, and amenities, we hope to be able to get that all finished out before this next 6 months extension finishes. Infrastructure for sure, but landscaping, amenities, and all that might come secondary just afterwards to make sure we don't damage any of that throughout the installation of the infrastructure.
Out of curiosity, what is the price point for these homes going to be? Do you know?
Again, I'll probably have to refer to Alpine and Fieldstone Homes on that one. I think there was a targeted range, but it would obviously vary on lot size, interior finishes, size of the home. I think it'd be comfortable for us to say a move up product somewhere from 600 to 800,000 would be my guess. But again, that would be an Alpine and Fieldstone question.
I'm not a builder. I've never. Do you buildings after someone has purchased, or do you build them ahead of time and then purchase them?
So it can go both ways. Fieldstone Homes has built a model home to be able to represent the product type. And there's a little bit of a variation. There are spec builders who will pick all specs, finish work, architecture, design elements, and they'll build a home from start to finish and then sell that as a fully finished product. There are other builders who will build a model home, kind of demonstrate the differences in finishes and appliances and whatnot, and then they'll go under contract as a pre-sale that's contingent upon them building a home according to the buyer's liking. So I bet in this subdivision you'll see pre-sales starting to happen pretty quickly now that they're getting close to finishing their model home.
So how many builders do we have building in there?
2.
Just 2 builders. And they both will have their own spec homes?
I believe so. I'm not entirely sure how Alpine plans to address their build out, but Fieldstone has a model home up, and I think Alpine is actually going to start. As I think Brandon mentioned, they've already submitted building plans. So, assuming those are permitted, they might have a buyer lined up, but I'd imagine that they'll be building at least one spec model home to start the process.
Now, are all the roads done, basically?
So if you look at the map, the first phase is outlined in red, the second phase is outlined in green. All of the roads in the first and second phases have been installed according to plan.
Already over here.
So,
Yeah, they're building right here. Right
oh, they're building over here, not the yellow. You're building in the red area.
Right off of South Weber and 1050.
Do you expect the amenities to be completed before anyone moves in, or is that going to be a gradual process that happens, like people might purchase homes and move in and then the amenities are still being worked on?
Yeah, great question. Seeing that Fieldstone Homes already has a home that's nearing completion, although it is a model, they'll probably continue to build out. I'd imagine that they'd finish homes here within the next 5 months. Seeing that we'll still be working through the infrastructure. The amenities are already bonded for, so they're financially guaranteed, but we'll go throughout their installation probably while the first phase residents are moving in, but I'd imagine they'd be finished well before phase 2 or 3 even begins build out.
Okay.
And the amenities is right there.
In the open space
Open space
area,
above the red?
yellow, it's within the yellow portion of phase 3. Up to more the northwest side. It actually goes throughout the whole span of the project on phase 3 section. There will be pickleball courts, athletic courts, walkable trails, pavilion section. All of that's included, I believe, in the development agreement, and then I don't want to misspeak, but I think those are called out in the landscaping plan as well, which haven't been included in this packet, but
What's this?
She's asking about what that is over there on the far left side. It's got the slatted vertical lines on it.
In the yellow?
yeah, that's the power corridor. So there's a big Rocky Mountain power
Okay.
power corridor that runs through there. It's elevated. Well, we're well within safety parameters, but there's no construction that will be occurring underneath those sections
Will
of
be
the
grass
project.
there under?
Yeah. So right now it's slated. That's where majority of the amenities are going to be located
Oh,
because no
okay.
building can occur there.
That's where they have the big power plant coming in
Coming in
from,
there,
from
okay.
Ritter Drive, and it comes through Riverside Golf Course and continues on right through that flat area.
I just didn't want that to be a garbage dairy
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
totally understand, and we're doing whatever we can to
where they can throw
beautify
their
that.
trash, you know.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't end up like that. There will be a retention. I think it's a retention pond now during the improvements, but it will be a detention pond. We're working through some low impact development practices to see if we could potentially convert that into something a little more, I guess, grassed or beautified. But for right now, that'll be a detention pond with trails around it and such. So,
Is
but
that like
great
an
question.
easement with the power company?
The power company does own an easement there, yeah, but that's where all amenities will lie, and we won't be installing any amenities that would violate any of those easement parameters that have been left before
If you have a
us.
detention pond in there and they have the big 440,000 volt power lines coming through there, that's not gonna interfere with your ponds or anything like that?
No, the
So they have access to go all the way through there if they needed to with, I know a lot of times they bring helicopters in there, you know, to get up on those big 440 lines.
Yeah, they have their own different safety and guidelines that they practice, but the power poles for those corridors they're currently located, and they're not going to be relocated. We're building everything around those so that there won't be any complications. But that's a great question.
So, commissioners, the items you're discussing are site plan items, and that site plan's been previously approved. The plat shows the open space that's dedicated land as open space, and so that's an important distinction. It is dedicated on the plat as open space, and the development agreement that we have and the ordinances that are in place ensure that the site plan is built out in accordance to the approved document. And so everything you're talking about are site elements, but it is important to note that it's secured by the open space, and the HOA claims responsibility and ownership of it.
But I do love the project, and I'll speak to any portion of it. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
And I think partially we're just taking advantage of the moment to ask a few extra questions. So we appreciate you
Of
being
course.
willing to do that.
Of course.
Any other questions? If not, then a motion would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve to grant the additional 6-month extension to August 15th, 2025 for subdivision plat approval for Coleman View Estates, located at approximately 5368 South, 1050 West, as requested by Goldcrest Homes. I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Michelle, would you pull the commissioners, please?
Commissioner Henstra,
Yes.
Commissioner Polson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nye,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Spires,
Yes.
Commissioner Nolan.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Hopefully we beat the extension, but if not, it'll be a quick 6 months, and we'll wrap everything up shortly after. But appreciate your guys' input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
All right. Next on our agenda is any comments from the planning commissions or city staff?
I do have one. Where it used to be Bed Bath and Beyond, it's a furniture place. It looks like it's going out of business. Is that true?
American Freight?
American
Yes.
Freight, they're empty now, yeah.
It's empty.
Yep.
So we got an empty building again, huh?
Yes.
Momentarily.
Momentarily. Do we have anything? Nothing coming in.
Nothing that I know of. Thrive Appliances is out of business as well, just down the parking lot there.
I had one guy come and ask about zoning for a gun range the other day,
For what?
shooting range.
How about a Dave and Buster's?
Are they around still?
is
Down
that?
in the Union Grand down in Salt Lake. It's quite a
Oh, that's
attractive
been there
little
for a
place
while.
families. Huh?
Yeah, that's been there a long time.
Yeah.
I thought they went out of business.
Randy, what is Dave and Buster's?
Dave and Buster's is a restaurant, but it's also a bar. Like you walk into like an Applebee's or whatever, and has a bar facility there. But it also has children's games. The children can go and play while they're there. And it's been down there by the gateway for years. And I had a couple people say, "What are you going to do in that property?" You know, we was talking about building homes. I said, that'd be a great place because it don't bring in the traffic on that road, but yet it's still an entertainment place for families to come and take their children and eat at the same time. Most of the restaurants, you don't have that for children's. That's one that, and they've proved how long it's been down there, has been a very successful business down there by the gateway.
You put that in the old RC Willie building.
You can even do that, yeah.
So there's the
But I was thinking
potential.
of the traffic
Yeah.
going down
Yeah.
there. It wouldn't be like all the homes in that congested
true.
area. You would have people come in there and eat and go, and you're not having 200 cars going like this in that little area. But some of it, maybe it wouldn't consume the whole area. But it's a good restaurant for families that want to chill out and eat and let their kids play at the same time, which we really don't have, that kind of amenity in Riverdale. We have the others that you just sit down and eat or have a drink if you do that, whatever. But for children to be with their families, the wife can take the kids while, whatever. And I thought that would be a lot better than having that road congested. So, what are you smiling about?
It's okay.
Doesn't RC Willie's still have an issue with it as far as in front because of the floodplain? There seemed to be that we had discussed it, that there was something that they had to do, whether it was raising up in front for flooding purposes because of Birch Creek.
I'm not
Was
aware
that
of that.
before Brandon's time?
I think so.
It might have been that we had discussions about that.
Yeah.
That building was part of it.
I think
Pardon
it's
me?
It was over by the Staples and.
Between, in between the backside of the old RC.
I know Birch Creek floods, and it's in the floodplain there.
Yeah.
It's north
It
of,
seemed that there was something with the elevation with RC Willie's that I was wondering if that's why developers haven't really, taken a shine to that.
No, I think the issue is a combination of the building being either not the right size or shape and being too expensive. The current owners have a price point that they want to hit, and they're pretty, adamant about it.
Have they thought about doing more of a strip mall setup or dividing it?
I'm not sure of all of the proposals that the owner has entertained. I do know that some of them have been partial occupancies, and that might be the issue too, where he doesn't want to split the building up.
Yeah.
So they don't really talk to us much. We have to find out in other ways.
It's just a shame for that big piece to be going unused.
Yeah, it is.
Be empty.
Where's Trader Joe's? It's going in. what-
Shopko.
next to
Ashley,
Ashley.
In the
right?
Ashley
Next door.
building,
But where?
the south end of Ashley.
So Ashley's cut that building in not quite half, but they put a wall
Oh, okay,
inside
that makes sense
and then
now.
split it.
They're dividing it,
Okay.
which could be beneficial in the old RC Willie building. It is a very big building size to occupy. I can see how there wouldn't be a ton of interest in it because there's only so many businesses that would occupy a building
Right.
that size and be able to pay the price tag.
Right.
Whereas if maybe they were willing to divide it.
I've attempted to reach out a couple of times to the ownership. Maybe I'll try again this week and see if there's any new things I can discover.
Yeah, that'd be great. It just seems such a shame for that to be empty for so long.
Yeah. But you're right, it is a big box, and big boxes are tough to fill. And splitting it up into little boxes and filling it with less significant tenants doesn't always pan out. Look at the section just to the west of it. So it's tough.
Wonder if they did something like a food court or something like that.
Those are popular in urbanized areas.
Okay. Do we want to hang around any longer?
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
I want to
Did you see? That's what it's going to look like.